Tonight, drama in the House. The bond inquiry report not tabled in Parliament. Prime Minister's special statement leads to pandemonium. Who did what? Parliamentarian Kehelia Rambukwala speaks on those involved in the bond controversy.
I do not know to what degree each one has got involved, but definitely there is an involvement of all of them.
More time. 5-member Supreme Court bench appointed to determine the length of the president's term. Questionable candidates. PAFRL chief echoes Election Commission chairman comments and says candidates unfit to be given nominations included. And in international headlines, tragedy in the City of Angels. Mudslides and flash floods in Los Angeles kills at least 13. Good evening. It's Wednesday, the 10th of January 2018. I'm Mahesh Johnny and this is First at 9. We want to welcome all our viewers joining us across Sri Lanka and around the world. Let's begin with our lead story and take you straight to the Parliament. Well, the Parliament gathered today for a special session to debate on the report from the Special Commission on the Bond Inquiry. However, things did not go according to plan. The President's Secretary has informed the Secretary-General of Parliament via a written statement that the report by the Commission of Inquiry on the Central Bank bond issuance will be tabled at the Parliament on the 17th of January. This resulted in a tense situation in the House where several parliamentarians were injured following a brawl that erupted between MPs representing the joint opposition and the UNP.
A parliamentary session was convened today regarding the report by the Commission of Inquiry on the central bank bond issuances. This was after Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe requested Understanding Order number 14. However, Speaker Karu Jayasuriya informed the Parliament that the report will be tabled at the House within a week.
The Secretary-General of Parliament has sent a letter to the President's Secretary requesting for 34 copies of the report by the Commission of Inquiry into the central bank bond issuances. The President has informed that several of these copies will be sent to the Attorney-General, the Central Bank and Bribery and Corruption Commission. The President also informs that the report will be tabled at the Parliament after a week. It was the joint opposition and the SLFP who requested for this debate. We are ready for one, but they are not.
This report should be published under the Right to Information Act. The Presidential Secretariat should prepare for that. If you can't table the report today, then we should do so at least by tomorrow.
According to the Constitution, as a Speaker, you have the power to request for the report.
There are two reports with the President, including the bond report and another report related to corruption. It is his decision to table the report in Parliament or not. I also have to make a statement about the COPE because this statement will be important if there is going to be a debate later on.
We were informed that this parliamentary session is convened to discuss about the bond report and not about a statement by the Prime Minister.
That the report of the Commission appointed by the President must be tabled in Parliament at the earliest. Not merely this, all acts of corruption that have been committed in this country, both in the present and in the past, need to be investigated. We have a history in this country where Commission reports are never made public.
There were requests for an immediate parliamentary session and I arranged that. Now they're saying they don't want that. We are not here to listen to a statement by you. We propose this session so that the report can be tabled in Parliament. If you are saying you are going to table it after a week, then let's convene the session after a week. We can then go through the report and decide on a date to debate. This debate is surely a plan to postpone the election. The report must first be presented to the Cabinet and then the President will table it in Parliament.
By afternoon today, Parliament must summon the Secretary to the President and whoever else who is in possession of this report to bring the report and come to Parliament by 1:30.
The President today is in Anuradhapura at the SLFP meeting, but I will meet the... Wait. I will meet the President in the evening, also convey to him, because these honourable members must now also go to Anuradhapura for the SLFP meeting.
The document is available with many officers. Summon the officer and the document and let them table it in Parliament. Then we decide.
Maybe when this is over, you can have a meeting of the party leaders. But let me first say a few words.
Prime Minister meanwhile made a special statement on the COPE report amidst opposition and criticism.
අද දින මම මේ ප්‍රකාශය කරන්නේ කෝප් වාර්තාව පිළිබඳ අපගත් පියවර මෙම ගරු සභාව වෙත තවදුරටත් පැහැදිලි කිරීම සඳහායි. එම බැඳුම්කර ගැටලුව පිළිබඳව මුලින්ම කතිකාවත ඇති කරේ ඇති වූ
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි දුන්නනේ කොමිසමේ වාර්තාව සභාවට
my mic on, man. Okay, otherwise I'm going to take you out of there. Then ඉතිරිව ඇත්තේ.
Now what remains is taking legal action and recovering the losses incurred by the government. This is why they screamed. This 11 billion rupees still remains. It is not lost. We can recover it through court proceedings. For that, they created chaos. The reason is if they don't do that, they cannot go around accusing us of stealing.
The Prime Minister continued to make his statement where opposition MPs began to agitate against the speech.
සොයා ගැනීම පිළිබඳවත් ලිඛිතව ලෝක බැංකුවෙන් හා ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදලෙන් මා ලිඛිතව කරුණු විමසා සිටියා. ඒ මගින් මහා කටුකයි දුෂ්කරයි බොරු වරවල් වලට වැටි මං මුලා නොවි මං කෑ ගහනකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ කෑ ගහන්න. ඒ මගින් මග ඉදිරියට ගොස් එන කවුද හොරා කවුද හොරා කවුද හොරා.
After the Premier's statement, the session was then postponed for 10 minutes to convene a party leaders' meeting. Meanwhile, several parliamentarians captured the visuals on their mobile of how opposition MPs gathered at the centre of the House, shouting slogans during the Premier's speech. An argument was then erupted between parliamentarians representing the joint opposition and UNP while the party leaders' meeting was being held. The argument developed into a brawl between the two parties after UNP MP SM Marika and UPFA MP Gamini Lokuge began to attack each other.
When senior parliamentarians act like this, junior parliamentarians believe that this is the tradition of parliament. That is why this occurred. That is why I opted to mediate between parliamentarians Chaminda and Mahindananda Gamage. I was caught in between the two. I believe women representation should increase more in parliament in order to avert situations like these.
Parliamentarians Prasanna Ranavira and Ranjit D'Souza were seen injured as a result of the brawl.
UNP parliamentarians acted in a rude manner. We were in the midst of them. So when it got heated, things like this happen. This is a normal thing. We are used to these.
Later on, the House was reconvened to continue the day's session. Here, Speaker Karu Jayasuriya was handed over a letter from the President that he received after the session began. The statement said that the President has taken steps to provide several pages of the report to the House.
Today, several things should have not occurred. Took place in the House. Several fought, several were injured, some even fought with documents. The reason for this, with all due respect, Mr. Speaker, is mainly because you had no control of the House today. You have a responsibility to ensure that this report is provided according to law. Please do that. This statement was made by the Prime Minister before, and you provided permission for him to do that again. The Prime Minister has completed his statement. By giving him the chance to do so, you are taking this Parliament as a joke. It is the Speaker who should decide, not the Prime Minister. The Premier does not have the powers you have.
The Prime Minister then began to give his statement again to the House, at which point members of the joint opposition and the JVP vacated the House.
Meanwhile, various views were forthcoming on the bond inquiry report, with some weighing in with their opinions on the tense situation witnessed in Parliament today.
Very clear case of daylight robbery. Because if you take the sequence of events that took place, take that whole thing, any layman, you don't have to be an expert, could analyze it and say, well, do not know to what degree each one has got involved. But definitely there is an involvement of all of them, at one stage or the other, to some extent or the other. And particularly when it comes to the COAP, for the first time in the history, the person who's accused of is calling the COAP committee while the committee proceedings were going on. Not just one or two calls, hundreds of them. Now, doesn't that amount or lead into some kind of reasonable doubt of the activities of the COAP?
They have now commenced investigations and the matter has been forwarded to the Attorney General's Department. Therefore, the public can wait without giving various interpretations and embellishing the matter. What is the first thing the government should not do when they come into power? They should not steal. They should punish those who steal and charge them. But the first thing they did was they stole from the central bank. Who should be held accountable? We believe it should be Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party convened a media briefing today to speak on the bond inquiry report and the President's decision on when it will be tabled in Parliament. Views were also expressed on the tense situation which erupted in Parliament today.
If some are shedding blood for a report they have not even read or even seen the front cover of, then this is a sad situation. We are against individuals disrespecting the Parliament by fighting in order to gain political mileage. Several parliamentarians attempted to influence the public by saying that legal measures should be taken the very next day over the matter. There are two reasons behind this. Firstly, to drive their own political agendas, and secondly, their lack of comprehension.
Meanwhile, the topic of the bond issue was also brought up at the Cabinet media briefing today.
When you present a report like this, you would normally have to translate this into 3 languages and then issue in the official language first. But this report consists of 1,257 pages. Therefore, the President wanted to look into the legalities and release the report online. We recommended that the report be released to the Central Bank and then to the FCID. We informed this to the Secretary to the President and we received a response today saying that we will be able to table this in Parliament on the 17th. We believe that we will not be able to take normal legal measures, but we will have to call for financial specialists and adopt special legal measures to address this issue. We must find out as to what the economic cost to the country is, not how many houses or cars were purchased with the money.
Let's move on to the latest on the election. President Maithripala Sirisena points out that public servants and others should not at any time misuse public property. He made this remark at the inaugural election rally of the UPFA held at the Salgado grounds in Anuradhapura today. The maiden rally organised by the UPFA in view of the local government election was held at the Salgado grounds in Anuradhapura this afternoon. The rally was attended by the General Secretary of SLFP, Minister Duminda Dissanayake, and the General Secretary of the UPFA, Minister Mahinda Amaravira, along with other ministers and parliamentarians of the party. Chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, President Maithripala Sirisena, was warmly welcomed by the supporters as he entered into the premises of the rally. General Secretary of the SLFP, Minister Duminda Dissanayake, then presented the 10-year plan themed "Let's Develop Our Village" to the President. One of the main reasons for the previous government to be defeated was because of the corrupt chairmen that were appointed into the local government bodies. During a meeting between these chairmen and the former president, I spoke to the chairmen at that time and advised them that they should work towards the betterment of the people. Sadly, the former president later called on these chairmen and said to continue with how they work. No one should lay hands on public property. Parliament was convened today and both the parties called each other thieves. All members of the SLFP were in Anuradhapura since morning. Just like how a pickpocketer is running away from his crime screaming, this is exactly what has happened to our country's politics. Assassination of late SWRD Bandaranaike was a shot against the progressive state of this country. By creating a new party and using the colours of the SLFP is a second bullet fired against the former Prime Minister. People who are against us can see on the 10th of February, after people have voted for the chair and the beetle leaf, as to who really loves this country and the village. Elections Commission today convened a special meeting with the party secretaries and election monitoring bodies over the upcoming local government election. Quoting the chairman of the Election Commission, executive director of the election monitoring body, People's Action for Free and Fair Elections, Rohan Hettiarachchi, stated that candidates who are unfit to be included in nomination list are given places and necessary action will be taken to unseat them even if they are elected.
Party representatives, election monitoring bodies and the police arrived at the Elections Commission for a special meeting. At the special meeting, the chairman of the Election Commission, Mahinda Deshapriya, emphasized on election-related violations and on action to be taken to protect election laws.
The chairman of the Elections Commission clearly stated that unsuitable candidates have been included in the nomination list. Government officers who are unfit for the position and people involved in criminal cases are included. Even if they win, action will be taken to unseat them after the election.
The Chief Justice today appointed a 5-member judge bench to deliberate the request made by the President, where the head of state requested a determination on the length of his term in office. The determination is due to be notified to the President on or before the 14th.
The 19th Amendment to the Constitution, brought in following victory in the presidential election on the 8th of January in 2015, reduced the term of presidency from 6 years to 5. In this backdrop, President Maithripala Sirisena requested the Supreme Court to declare their verdict on whether his term is 5 years or 6. Despite the Constitution of 1978 giving a 6-year term to the presidency, the recently passed 19th Amendment limits it to 5 years. Accordingly, the Chief Justice appointed a 5-member judge bench today to deliberate the President's request. Chief Justice Priyasad Deb himself will chair the bench with Supreme Court judges Eva Vanasundara, Bhuvaneka Aluvihare, KT Chitrasiri and Sisira Diabru comprising the rest of the bench. The President's request is due to be deliberated in open court at the Supreme Court and a determination be delivered. Meanwhile, addressing a media briefing today, President of the Sri Lanka Bar Association, UR De Silva, elaborated on the legality surrounding the matter.
The next step is for the court to seek the opinion of the lawyers community regarding this procedure. The lawyers community was made aware of the matter yesterday with the signature of the Secretary, and they are informed to come forth tomorrow to submit their views on the matter before the Supreme Court. Later, the Supreme Court will submit this determination in writing before the 14th to the President as requested by him.
Meanwhile, touching on the matter, Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne said that the President was preparing to move for a presidential election in 2020, but he was recently informed that he will have to do so in 2021. He added that he too believes the 5-year term stipulated by the 19th Amendment to the Constitution does not apply to the incumbent President. The Minister highlighted such to be the reason for the President's request from the Supreme Court for clarification on the term of the presidency. Responding to a question raised by a journalist, the Minister said that President Maithripala Sirisena is not going for a second term in office.
Also, the Cabinet co-spokesperson, Minister Dr. Rajasenaratne, today refuted speculations which suggested that the board of directors at the national carrier Sri Lankan Airlines has not resigned. Addressing the Cabinet media briefing, the minister said that the entire board, including its chairman, has resigned and it is the interim board that will convene on the 25th of this month. He went on to say that it is the subject minister who appointed the interim board until new members are appointed. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
The priority bus lane from Borala to Maradana was implemented this morning under the auspices of the Minister of Megapolis and Western Development, Hartley Champika Ranawaka. The pilot project to implement priority bus lanes aimed at minimizing traffic congestion. 2 fishermen perished at sea when their multi-day trawler collided with a container carrier in the deep seas 13 nautical miles off Dondra last night. 6 fishermen were returning to Dondra with the body of a fellow fisherman who died at sea when their vessel collided with a container carrier heading to the Hambantota port from Colombo. The crew of the ship rescued 2 fishermen while Sri Lanka Navy saved another. Operations are underway in search of the missing fishermen. A van collided with a parked lorry in the area of Kokaville in Markulam along the A9 route last night, killing 4 persons. The van was flying towards Jaffna with 5 people aboard. A person was shot by a group of thieves who broke into a shop in Panadura last evening. According to the police, the thieves who arrived on a motorbike stole cash from the shop.
Watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back, everyone. On to business news. The government plans to reduce public debt to GDP to 70% by 2020, and several proposals to reach the target was considered by the Cabinet at its meeting yesterday. Thereby, among other proposals, the government has considered a proposal to reduce loans obtained for public investment by way of attracting domestic private sector and foreign investors to spearhead public investment.
Government will award the contract for the construction of the wind barrier at Lakvijaya Power Plant in Putlam to Laughs Engineering and Sunken Construction. The project is estimated to cost around 725 million rupees. The present wind barrier is to be improved to face high windy situations as it causes difficulties in such time to surrounding residents. Meanwhile, the contract for rehabilitation of underground rainwater drainage system in Kandy has been awarded to Germany's Ludwig Felter and Gibson Structural of India. This project will cost over ₹1 billion. Resources Development Consultants meanwhile won a ₹260 million contract to provide consultancy services for the supervision of road construction from Bibile to Chenkaladi. The road section spans a length of around 87 kilometers.
Let's take you to the stock market now. Sri Lankan shares ended weaker today as investors sold blue chips such as Ceylon tobacco, but foreign investors' appetite for risky assets limited the downslide. The Colombo Stock Index ended 0.4% weaker at 6,502.96. Turnover stood at 376 million rupees today, well below last year's daily average of 915.3 million rupees. Foreign investors, which accounted for more than 65% of the day's buying, net bought shares worth of 18.2 million rupees today, extending the net foreign inflow in this year to 2.23 billion rupees. They had net bought of 18.5 billion rupees worth equities in 2017 and 633.5 million rupees in 2016. On to international news now. At least 30 people are killed and thousands fled from their homes in Southern California yesterday as a powerful rainstorm triggered flash floods and mudslides. Heavy downpours struck before dawn yesterday after thousands of residents in Santa Barbara County along with the Pacific coast north of Los Angeles were ordered to evacuate.
The mudslide toppled trees and demolished cars and covered blocks of quiet residential neighborhoods with a thick layer of mud. The death toll yesterday surpassed a California mudslide on January 10th of 2005 that killed 10 people as a hillside gave way in the town of La Conchita, less than 32 kilometers south of the latest disaster. The flooding and mudslides have shut down more than 30 miles of the main coastal highway. California officials stated that the hardest hit homes were those that were not in the evacuation zone. Emergency officials were quoted as saying that a number of people are unaccounted for and the number of deaths is still on the rise. There are reports that around 300 people are trapped in Romero Canyon, east of Santa Barbara.
Also in international news, South Korean President Moon Jae-in today credited US President Donald Trump for helping to spark the first inter-Korean talks in more than 2 years and warned that Pyongyang would face stronger sanctions if provocations continued. The talks were held yesterday on the South Korean side of the demilitarized zone.
North and South Korea agreed at their first formal talks in more than 2 years yesterday to resolve all inter-Korean matters through dialogue and to revive military talks to avert accidental conflict. During the talks, the South agreed to consider a temporary lifting of sanctions against North Korea during the period of the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang next month. Its President Moon Jae-in said today that he was open to any form of meeting, including a summit with North Korea under right conditions and denuclearization. The Korean Peninsula is an aim that cannot be abandoned. Meanwhile, Russian Ambassador Vasily Nebensia to the United Nations also said yesterday that he welcomes the fact that North and South Korea held their first talks in more than 2 years.
You mean my personal reaction? I welcome it. I welcome it.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
On to sports now. The Sri Lankan visually impaired cricket team registered their first victory at the 5th Blind Cricket World Cup in Dubai. The Lankans defeated the Australia's visually impaired cricket team by 303 runs at their first encounter yesterday. Sri Lankan team scored 485 runs for the loss of 8 wickets in 35 overs. Suranga Sampath scored 130 runs, while Rohan Wasantha scored a Nelson. Captain Chandana Deshapriya also contributed with a half-century. In response, the Aussies could only manage 182 runs. WPL Sanjeeva claimed 3 wickets.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Now, temperatures are to vary between 19 and 29 degrees Celsius over the course of the next 24 hours. Now, if you take a look at the map, you can see there will be to low to medium precipitation in the coastal region of the island, moving inwards in the evening. Now, this could mean we can expect some thunder showers in the Anuradhapura area and some wet and gloomy weather in the northern region. Same will be expected in the southern region of the island, with some thunder showers expected in Galle and Mathura as well as in Colombo. Up next is your City by City forecast.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny. First at 9 will return tomorrow at the same time. Be sure to join us then. But before we wrap things up, we'd like to take you on the Udarata Manike train journey. This is considered to be the most beautiful train journey in the country. Both foreigners as well as local tourists take the journey as one of the best travel experiences. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good night.
bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.